It's about free speech, and we are going to visit free speech later on this week as well. But because the thing about this is I need to show you video. I'm not going to show you the whole video because it's 8.5 minutes. But Mahmoud Khalil, who is the pro-Palestinian voice in America, who is being, well, we think, removed from America, even though he's a green card holder. Zateo over the weekend got their hands on his arrest video. I mean,
turn around.
Okay, let's not. Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone. Okay, he's not. I understand. He's not resisting. Like,
don't worry about it. You're gonna have to come with us. Don't worry. I'm coming with you. Don't worry. No one's resisting. No one's getting worked up.
And we will kind of jump through it a little bit because I've watched the whole thing through. They get out into, and the I'm not sure who the woman is who's videoing, but she's obviously distraught. She's talking to someone else.
It's his wife.
It is actually his wife? Okay. She's talking to someone else on the phone, and she's distraught. Doesn't know what to do. Follows him out.
what's your name?
And then she's trying to get the names of the people arresting. She's trying to get where he's going. The lawyer on the phone wants to speak to them all, and none of them will speak to her. So actually, he is taken away in the car, and she doesn't know where he's going. And they won't tell her. And the lawyer doesn't know.
She said they're taking him to 26 Federal Plaza.
And apparently when the lawyer turned up to the location she got told they were at, he wasn't there.
Please? Excuse me.
He ended up being in a completely different state within 2 days. This is a US green card holder being black bagged in the middle of the night.
Yep.
The lawyer would like to speak to somebody. Oh my God, they're literally like running away from me.
So as I said, I mean, I'll try and put the link in the show notes. I'm not going to see the whole thing because we want to go on and talk about this. There's obviously lots of conversations around this, the human rights issue, the squashing of free speech issue, the, as you just say, Chewie, kidnapping a legal resident in America and saying we're going to get rid of you even though you've got legal residency here because of the things we don't like. The angle we're going to have a look at tonight, Humanist Report did a really good wrap up of a whole bunch, we're not going to show all of their stuff, but a whole bunch of people on the right who are, sorry, I was going to stop that, who are all of a sudden, Chewie, it's not about free speech anymore. It's almost like they've changed their perspective 180 degrees based on what was politically advantageous to them. So this is a clip, I'm using several clips from the Humanist Report here. This is Humanist Report just showing when Ben Shapiro was an advocate for free speech.
Shapiro has emerged as one of the top defenders of free speech.
There's speech I don't like, there's speech you don't like, but if we can't agree that there is a difference between speech and violence, we're not going to be able to have a free state, let alone a free country. There's a big part of the left, and it's growing, that says that it is incumbent to protect the campus from ideas that are dissenting, and everyone who dissents must be thrown off.
So that's where he was. Where he is now is his response to the wife, I think, on Twitter.
In response to Mahmoud's wife complaining about how her husband was effectively kidnapped by the U.S. government, Ben Shapiro responded saying, "No, you see, kidnapping is what Hamas does. You remember, it's the thing Mahmoud Khalil celebrates." Moves on to another part of the conversation. With and this is the Humanist Report we're seeing right now, Mike Figueredo, sorry, and he makes the point that going by Ben Shapiro's new criteria about supporting a terrorist voice, which is not what Mahmoud was doing, but if it was, then maybe Ben Shapiro should be careful about an arrest coming his way. Would be justified in kidnapping him, since Israel, the country that Ben Shapiro supports, has kidnapped approximately 9,000 Palestinian hostages, including hundreds of children. We go on as well. Some more conversations around what Ben Shapiro is up to, what he has said, all of a sudden trying to move away. Because remember, all that Mahmoud has done is spoken, literally just
speaking out for Palestinian voices, speaking out for the bombing happening in Gaza. That's what he's done. He is a pro-Palestinian protester. And what the right's trying to do is turn away from free speech, even though it's a clear-cut case.
On Facebook, he writes, Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil was the first to be arrested by Homeland Security agents for his participation in pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campus, which, by the way, is not a crime.
Yeah. So he's actually acknowledging it's free speech, was participating in pro-Palestinian demonstrations on campus. Okay, clear cut.
Is protected speech under the First Amendment, even if you don't like it. He continues, President Trump vowed he would not be the last. The media is trying to spin this as an attack on free speech, but this isn't about protesting. It's about aiding and abetting terrorist sympathizers on American soil.
This goes on. This guy's name is Dan Crenshaw. He's a congressman or a senator, and we wanted him. He was on Piers Morgan on Friday, I think, with our mate Mehdi. And this clip is also from Mike's channel. When Dan Crenshaw was on Rogan talking about how important free speech is.
I do think you have an American obligation to actually adhere to free speech standards and to adhere to the same standards that the government adheres to, which is your speech is not protected if it incites violence directly. It's a pretty clear.
And we've just had Ben Shapiro actually say he was participating in pro-Palestinian protests. The definition of speech.
Your standard.
Yes.
Everything else is entirely vague and only leads to a slippery slope.
Now, Mehdi Hassan was on with Dan Crenshaw on, I think, Friday, our time. I'm going to play two clips here. One of the clips is only a few seconds long. The reason I'm playing it is because Mehdi Hassan says, fuck me. And I think it's hilarious to hear Mehdi Hassan say, fuck me. But the first part about it is these guys debating as to who and what has happened with Mahmoud. Sorry, I haven't got this quite queued up yet. 45, 23. Because this is, and what I'm trying to show you is the spin from the right. The spin from the right actually goes beyond the people on the right, because the people on the right are trying to sell a narrative that the White House won't even adhere to. Let's have a listen to this.
What Khalil's statements actually were. Quote, we are Westerners fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. Our intifada is an internationalist one. We are fighting for nothing less than the liberation of all people. So this is an incitement to violence, very clearly so. If you're looking,
that's a statement from a group he was part of.
Yeah. So okay. So here's the law. You're right. Sorry. That is correct. Now, here's the law that we're referencing. You said he broke no laws, but it's Section 8 U.S. Code 1227. Being a representative of a political or social group that endorses or espouses terrorist activity is against the law. And
so the overarching thing around this, and we all know this, is they're saying if you are pro-Palestinian, if you are pro-people of Gaza not being blown up, then by definition you're pro-Hamas. We know they do this. This is the latest incarnation of it, and it's causing legal residents in America to be black-bagged, as Chewie said.
A violation of the social contract of having that visa. That's the argument. There isn't some. This isn't some McCarthyism. This isn't some vague issue. How is it false? I just read to you the actual U.S. code.
Not true. I'll tell you. No,
not true according to who?
I can tell you how it's false. Because
just quietly, if you ever doubt anyone who's going to have receipts, it's always Mehdi Hassan.
According to the White House, Dan, according to the White House went to the Free Press yesterday. You should check your facts before you come on and defend the White House. The White House went to the Free Press and said, we're not accusing him of breaking any laws. So Congressman Dan Crenshaw is coming on TV making wild accusations of law breaking based on a quote that's not from Mahmoud Khalil.
Well, they're not wild accusations. It's just referencing the law.
They are. Well, hold on. Hold on, you're wrong, Dan. First, accept that you're wrong. The White House said to the Free Press, Barry Weiss's right-wing Free Press, this week, we are not accusing him of breaking any laws. In fact, if you want to understand the laws, you need to look at the Immigration National Act of 1952. They're actually taking him into deportation proceedings under Section 237A4CI, which allows Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, to personally deport a migrant because he believes that migrant's presence has serious potential adverse consequences for U.S. foreign policy. That is the obscure act, which, by the way, was designed for Eastern European Jews to get rid of them because they were deemed to be communists in the 1950s. That is what Rubio is using to get rid of a lawful permanent resident. Now, whether that's legal or not, Trump's late sister, Judge Marion Trump Barrett, Barry said it was a violation of the First Amendment. We'll see if the Supreme Court gets involved. But the idea that we should live in a country where Marco Rubio or Antony Blinken can remove a green card holder because he doesn't like his views and they're against U.S. foreign policy, some nebulous aim, that's outrageous. And there was a time when the Republican Party would have been against that,
making the
but not
argument
today.
stronger.
So there's that. I've got a couple more clips. I need to remind myself of what they are. Oh, no, that's Alan Dershowitz. I was going to play Alan Dershowitz because Alan Dershowitz evokes this case in Skokie. Skokie in America had the famous case where Nazis, again, literal, wanted to march and protest in Skokie. And of course, nobody wanted them to. So the ACLU went to court on behalf of the Nazis because it was just a free speech issue. Like nobody wanted to support them in their views, but it was this appearance. And the reason I was going to bring that up, which we won't talk about now, was I have a bit of an interest in that case because the guy who actually took that case was David Goldberger. And I've done a podcast with him to hear all the history behind Skokie and what happened there. Now, I will say this as well. This is from yonks ago. So as you can see, a massive 129 views. If you watch that from me, you may hear some things from me that you're a bit like, well, that sounds a little bit kind of centrist or whatever. This is happening now as well. This is an important thing to remember, is that if nothing else in this show, we are consistent. You know, we often get things thrown at us from the right, like, oh, did you condemn the guy punching the old lady at the Parky Po? And we're like, yeah. We're consistent. What's happening at the moment, and I'll say this about the left and the right, the left at the moment are jumping up and down about free speech because of what's happening in America. But you need to be honest as well. Some on the left right now who are jumping up and down in favor of free speech because of what's happening in America, a little while ago were perhaps saying something that sounded a bit opposite. Some people on the right who right now are jumping up and down about issues and trying to claim not free speech were a little while ago were doing the opposite. So when this tribal thing comes in, and at the moment in America, the left are for free speech and the right are against it, when the table turns and the right become for free speech and the left are, this doesn't work. This tribal thing doesn't work in these conversations. Consistency works. The problem with consistency is sometimes it's uncomfortable and sometimes you have to agree with, abide by, be in the same court as people you may not be that comfortable with. This is a little side note that I've been thinking about today because I listened to some of the Goldberg conversation that I had and I'm like, well, that sounds interesting because ACLU is very, very, very much gone to the far left, which is cool. I don't care about that, but you can see on their front page, rather than defending the right for Nazis to speak, it is a lot of real far left views, which is cool. Whatever, you do you, boo. But if for example, the ACLU stood up for Nazis today, or it'll be all hell to pay because they've taken a narrative and they've gone with it. It's going to be uncomfortable sometimes, like in a free speech situation, supporting the speech of people who you may not agree with, but the tribal nature of it sometimes comes to play. And when you get tribal about it, it's very easy to look like a hypocrite because all of a sudden when it's not your tribe to defend, you don't defend them. I think I'm finished, Chewie. That was a bit of a rant there, but you know what I'm saying? Do you want to add to that, Chewie?
That's a very rare Pat rant. But
it wasn't a foo-foo. It was just a controlled rant. There was no foo-foo.
I just want to just a couple of things because I know we'll dive deeper into this story tomorrow. But this example of a green card holder in the US, I guess their equivalent of our sort of like permanent resident type thing, being black bagged.
Yeah,
close to, right?
Yeah.
He's not the only one. There's a doctor from Germany. There's a Canadian tourist who has been in a detention center for almost a month now because they can't work out whether doing housework at the place that she was staying counts as work. There are people being deported to countries they're not from. There are people being deported to countries where they don't speak the language. There are people being deported for social media posts. Like this is real concerning.
According to US laws, green card holders are people who have been granted the right to live permanently in the country.
Yeah.
However, this is subject to the condition they don't commit any crimes or violations that could make them deportable under immigration law.
Cool. So
it's
going
like,
to a protest, not a crime.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're making. They're saying speaking, going to a protest is now supporting a terrorist. That this is their tacit, tie up in knots to try and get the link to ram that square into that circle, is that attending the protest, speaking at the protest, being the organizer of a protest is a direct support of a terrorist organization. That's the quote unquote crime.
This is why the left needs to stop fiddling and trying to be in the middle, because the right gives no such leeway when they're in control. Look, this and the reports of it led to me cancelling my plans to go to the US next year. I had hoped, but I am not going to end up in an ICE detention center on the border for the capital crimes of memes and supporting Palestine.
Yeah.
Like that's how wide they're casting this net, and I'm just not going to risk it. US can do a regime change if they want me to come over. The other thing I want to say is the Crenshaw guy. There was a comment here. Why is that man dressed like a pirate? I just want to highlight this fact. He's a combat veteran. He served overseas.
He lost his eye.
He lost his eye in a war zone. All of that sort of thing. Here is how I am going to sum up his character right now. He is part of the government that is scrubbing information about Medal of Honor holders, winners, people that have served wearing the same uniform that he has served the same country that he has served, and their historical footprint is being scrubbed because they are non-white. They are not straight white men, so they're being scrubbed from the historical record.
All women. I saw a picture of a woman standing in front of a bomber jet the other day, and I think it was called something like the gay something, like because back then it meant happy.
Enola Gay.
And they're the Enola Gay, and they're scrubbing that stuff as well.
Yeah, they scrubbed the first black general to win a Congressional Medal of Honor, just Medal of Honor, that he won in combat in Vietnam. Not a peep out of these guys. Trump's and Elon Musk is scrubbing grants and assistance to the Veterans Administration to help out combat veterans. Just like him, he's not piping up about them at all. So if you want to look at the very moral fiber of a person, the fact that he's not sticking up for fellow servicemen against the deep cuts and disrespect that Trump's regime is directing at American servicemen, there you have it. The guy's a scumbag.